All right, it's 6:30. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call right here. Mr. Bailey,
Here.
Mr. Huffine,
Here.
Chair Dean Ward is here, Mr. Wooten,
Here.
Mr. Stocker,
Here.
and Mr. Young.
Here.
All right, thank you. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from the previous meeting. Is there any changes need to be made? If not, I'm gonna do it in this second. Any changes? I hear none, so if I hear none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last month or last.
Move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's do the pledge of allegiance. Down.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're gonna fly right on through here. Cameron, let's go to new business, and let's get this on the road.
Yes, sir. So the city council, has requested, city staff to analyze the existing minor subdivision classification inside the development ordinance and allow, and update it to allow for one more additional lot and add a clearer synopsis of how the parent parcel is treated in these subdivisions. Staff has also added a time frame requirement on when previous subdivisions could be subdivided again as a minor subdivision. And outside of that, I provided you with the updated language. It's not really too much outside of changing, upwarding the minor subdivisions allow from 4 lots to 5 lots. And those, out of those 5 lots, that includes the parent parcel. So essentially, if you have a large chunk of land, you can create 5 lots out of it. There's not, okay, we have the parent parcel is its own lot and then 5 more after the fact. I think it was not clear, and we had some people that may have had some questions about exactly how the parent parcel was treated. So I guess you could look at it either way. We could have kept the 4 and said the parent parcel would not be included, but it's probably easier to say it's going to be 5 and include the parent parcel inside of there. And we also added in like when these minor subdivisions come along, no part of the tracker parcel to be divided has been divided as a subdivision within 5 years prior to the division. And that includes inside of your major subdivisions as well, just to allow for some additional time for more or less just for the minor subdivision, but we figured it better to encapsulate all of it. If you have a large chunk of land, say 20 acres, and you only make 5 lots out of it, and you still got 10 odd acres left, you couldn't keep coming the next year and do another 5 out of that subdivision because it should be considered a major in that point, and you're not kind of continuing tacking on and not meeting our major subdivision requirements. So if you let that sit dormant for 5 years, then yes, you can come back and do another minor subdivision for it. And I think that was another thing that wasn't quite clear whenever they were taking a look at it and asking these questions. So that's why it was added.
So if I bought a 20-acre tract here in Graham,
Mhm.
and I sold Mr. Huffine's 10 of those acres, I could subdivide mine and have 5, and he could do the same on his.
Yeah, essentially, yes, sir. I think as long as it hasn't been subdivided prior to, so that would be kind of the case is if you were to split that land in half and create a minor subdivision, then it would have to be kind of in that same boat of, we have to look at it of that 5 years time before any other division of that parcel would come through.
But it's changed hands, so you're gonna hold my feet to the fire because it changed hands because I sold Mr. Huffine's
Mm-hmm.
10
That's kind
acres
of,
and he elects to, because he's never done what this ordinance is saying, so what's preventing it? Because it don't say that.
from what exactly?
It's changed, the deed is changed, so
Mhm.
a 20-acre land, I sold 10 acres to Mr. Huffine, so I only have 10 acres left.
Mhm.
So I understand I'm bound by this ordinance, but
Yes, sir.
Mr. Huffine's is starting fresh.
So in that case, you might even have the ability to continue doing it because there is an exempt classification whenever you do come to this stuff. So, if you have a 10-acre separation, if you have a 20-acre piece of lot, you can subdivide it as an exempt subdivision and not have to go through any of our ordinance requirements for 10 lots to separate it. And from there, yes, you would be able to do it. But if you were under that threshold of, 10-acre lots, then it doesn't necessarily change hands by deed anymore. It does have to be classified as a subdivision. So yes, essentially there would not be a allowance of once that lot line is drawn. it would essentially have to meet the requirements of this ordinance being waiting to 5 years to divide it again.
Do you follow that, Chad? I don't
Yeah,
see
'cause
that.
if you change the number to 9 and do an 18-acre parcel and
Mhm.
divide it 9 by 9, then we're not exempt. And then what Dean is trying to illustrate holds the new buyer, me in this example,
Mhm.
to the requirements of the 5-year waiting period.
Mhm.
So,
Does it, I mean, does it need to be some other language in there to about a sale? Because I, I can see going out Rogers Road there and there's 50 acres out there probably at any given spot that
Mhm.
hasn't been sold yet, that's still in the city, that if I come along and I purchased the 50 acres
Mhm.
and then I sold Mr. Huffines his portion of land, whatever that may be, and he chooses to cut it up into 5 lots or 5 lots. And then he sells me, I just say I bought 50 and I sold Mr. Huffines 20 or 18 or 10 or whatever. And he divides it up into 5 lots and it leaves room to where one of these 5 other people, that you're saying that they can't.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Because at that point, if Mr. Huffine were to retain it himself and to continue that subdivision out, it would have been classified as a major subdivision. And in that instance as well, there's a good chance that these large chunks of land that we're talking about are going to be considered major subdivisions anyways, because you're going to have to extend public utilities, roadways through all this area as well. So unless you have a really unique situation where it all fronts on a single roadway and you can create, all these different lots out of these different acres, then go ahead.
But this says, these are not gonna be public streets that we potentially could be putting in, and we don't have to run water and sewer, we could put wells in.
That's not correct. You can't subdivide off of a easement or private road or anything inside the city of Graham. So any type of subdivision, whether it be major or minor, has to have frontage on a public street.
Will this also conform to ETJ?
Yes, sir.
Anyone else?
also in item 5, subset or subpart C, a permanent means of ingress and egress is recorded for each lot. So we're saying we don't have a private street provision in the city ordinance, correct, Cameron?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
We don't have a private street provision in the city ordinance.
That's correct. So I guess when you read that ingress and egress, and I think even I might need to take a look in what the ordinance is, because I think this one is, I don't know exactly what it's talking about above. It's probably just the procedures for subdivisions. And I guess that ingress and egress, you have to kind of track back to whatever it says previous in there. It only allows for access off of public roads essentially. So that's that ingress and egress. It's supposed to be public.
Yeah, if item C stands, then the minor subdivision needs to be tabled and moved to another meeting, because a permanent means of ingress and egress could be a dedicated right of way, private easement, private right of way from one parcel to another to have access to the public right of way.
Yeah, I get it. And I'll pull up the existing ordinance so we can take a look at it. Because I don't think that portion of what you're reading has anything to do with the minor subdivision ordinance as it means. It's just,
And then I'll add to what Dean was speaking of earlier in the 50-acre example, and 20 of those acres is further subdivided into 4 additional lots, and then Dean has an heir that wants a piece of that remaining property, then he's prohibited from subdividing the balance of that property for whatever the time constraint is, whether it's 5 years or, and that would mean that in that example, Dean was held captive by my actions, which would further hamstring him from subdividing the property. So there's a lot of these minor subdivisions with time constraints. There's a lot of difficulty.
now, how would you suggest it be rerouted? Because I mean, there has to be some form of time frame associated with it,
Yeah,
because
I
I
totally
mean, the
understand.
smaller aspect of it, we have 5 acres and they do 5 7,000 square foot lots, and you got however many acreage left over. They record the plat, they come back here to City Hall and they're like, okay, we want 5 more lots out of this. And that's where essentially I think more or less the time constraint is more or less trying to hit on. Back to your point about, subsection C through here, it's referring to exempt subdivisions as we were talking about earlier. And it's talking about whenever the city may require only a plat for recordation of these exempt subdivisions. In single ownership, I think that's meaning this subsection 4 right here. The division of tract in single ownership whose entire area is no greater than 2 acres and it's not more than 3 lots, where no street right-of-way dedication is involved, and where the resident lots are equal to or exceed the standards of the applicable zoning district. It's essentially saying that we may only require a plat for recordation of these types of land. And as long as these criteria are met. And I think the permanent means of ingress and egress is associated with what our lot standards say in our subdivision, that it has to have frontage on a public road. So even to your point about, going into, the discussion about that, you could look at this other aspect of this exempt subdivision. Well, I mean, it still doesn't really help that much because it's talking about no greater than 2 acres and no more than 3 lots. So it wouldn't really kick on in that fashion. So
One of the things I'd like to ask is what the goal is for the language in and the provisions in the first place. And then one thing I'd like to, I think, mention is the reasoning behind what is the reason for a time constraint in the first place? Because that's the one unknown that we all as humans don't have.
time.
So if Tony wanted to subdivide his 10 acres tomorrow and I wanted to do mine the next day and it all came out of Dean's 50 acres, it shouldn't have anything to do with timing, in my opinion. I think more importantly, we would want to look into what the goals were from the city council's request to you guys and then to us to see if we can help write the language that accomplishes their goals.
Yeah, I think, their big part of it was just establishing some more defiant. I think it was more or less just increasing the number from 4 to 5 and having resolution for the parent parcel. And I think it was just a matter of taking a look at it as well, and for these smaller areas, to add in that time constraint of, I think it's more or less for, somebody that owns, like I said, those smaller parcels of land and not being able to essentially come back after the fact and subdivide all over again, because there are major subdivision requirements whenever you increase above that 5 lot standard. I mean, if you want to scrap the year requirement, the time requirement, I mean, you can certainly do that and move your motion along. If we want to have more discussion about what you all might see better fit to meet this classification, then I mean, we can certainly open that up. But I think, from our point of view, I don't know how much we would really change, to be quite honest with you.
I will add that the clarification of including the parent parcel in the total number of tracts is a cumbersome piece in every ordinance across our work areas. So having that included in the wording is very important.
Okay.
So that when we come to the staff and we say, all right, we want to subdivide a piece of property, what constitutes a minor subdivision? Well, the resulting is going to be 5 lots. Pretty clear and dry, or cut and dry. The idea of time constraints, in my opinion, is just, it's arbitrary and unnecessarily cumbersome.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. But I guess I can also, play devil's advocate a bit here. I mean, say, you two are in business together and you have a developer that's interested in developing these properties outright. Once you get everything sold, you're going to essentially sell it back over to them. They're going to build 5 lots on both of those pieces of land, essentially. And then we're back to the fact of it needed to be a major subdivision from the beginning. And I guess that's kind of how we're looking at it, is to limit that aspect of, people being able to take advantage of our ordinances in that fashion. I don't think it's to hinder, I think it's to prohibit people from being able to come in and essentially, take advantage of the wording that we have inside of here. And I think that's really how we've looked at it. I mean, we pulled, you know, some of this year requirement from multiple different ordinances, people that have it inside of there. I mean, I don't think it's really, you know, like you said, trying to harm any of the living citizens inside of here. And maybe even if there's an aspect of like, we want to have a discussion, I don't know if there's, and even, I mean, if you added anything about a sale, we could still make reference back to whatever I was saying is like, you could sell it, half of it to, you know, developer, you want to cut this piece in half, I'm gonna sell this to developer, then you turn around, you know, a year later and turn where that other piece that you still own to another developer or the same one, then we're still back in the square where we're at.
Yeah, and there should be no harm in that, whether it's a minor subdivision or a major subdivision. If there are 50 lots that front the public right of way and I want to subdivide them all using the minor subdivision one day after the other, the goal of subdividing the property is accomplished a lot more efficiently.
So you
efficiently.
think that is fine to create 50 minor subdivision lots throughout years' times?
Yeah, if it would just be prohibitive or time consuming in labor and
Mhm.
review. The end result will be the same. It's just more time in the review process for a major subdivision
Yeah.
when the result's going to be the exact same.
I think it hinders some other facets of whatever is required inside of our major subdivision ordinance, like sidewalk requirements, connectivity to any other potential developments that are over there. So if you continue to string along minor subdivisions, you're potentially cutting off, you know, public infrastructure that's moving on to the next area through there. And like I said, that's just more or less kind of how I look at it is we don't want to have stop gaps and continue along where I guess you do have a large strip of, you know, maybe it takes 5, 10 years, but I guess where we could have had all this done within, you know, those first, you know, 3, 4 years and everything developed out and have infrastructure in place. Instead, we're going to have kind of stopgap here and okay, eventually we're going to have 50 lots through here. And I think that's really how we kind of looked at it. I mean, like I said, if there's anything that you all feel the need to add to this to feel comfortable moving it along, I'm happy to have a discussion here tonight. But like I said, if I take this back and we take a look at it, I don't know how much it's going to change.
Did council ask for the time frame on there, or did y'all just decide to put that on there?
So there was discussion of the time frame on it as well because of the fact of, I think, specific subdivisions wanting to do this exact type thing. I think it was a question, one in particular, I think was the one that's on, was it Home and Pine over there? There was discussions about, you know, the parent parcel associated with it and why can't I, since I've subdivided this already, go ahead and cut another lot through here as well, and it's another minor subdivision. So they felt it best to add something inside of there to address it as well.
So I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So if I own a parcel here on Pine Street in Graham,
Mhm.
and it's 2 acres,
Yes, sir.
and I want to come in here and I just want to cut a half-acre lot off
Mhm.
and build a house on it,
Mhm.
and I've got road frontage.
That would probably be an exempt subdivision. So you would likely be fine, in the, and go back to it. So where is that? Yeah, the division of single ownership. So you continuously own, you know, that parcel of land, no greater than 2 acres and to not more than 3 lots. So you could essentially bypass all of the subdivision ordinance and create 3 lots. And from there, yes, you could essentially create another minor subdivision, amongst some of those if you absolutely wanted to. There's definitely, I mean, you can read it in many different ways and probably find a way to, you know, finagle around, but I think this is really just astute to the people that want to come here and, you know, develop, buy pieces of land and develop it into these minor subdivisions and trying, I guess, get around it. So there's always going to be a way to get around ordinances, in my opinion.
I agree with what you're saying. I just want to take the gray out of it. That's what I'm trying to do, is take the gray out of it, because I think that if you're prohibiting or wanting to restrict a piece of land, your deed restricting that land is what you're doing essentially. Do you agree? You're deed restricting that land. So you're saying, I own it today, but I sell it tomorrow to Mr. Wooten. Mr. Wooten keeps it for 5 years and he decides he wants to do a minor subdivision with some of it, and then he turns around and sells the rest of his land off to somebody else. You've restricted the next person down the ladder from enjoying the right and encumbrance of their land to proceed to maybe potentially make another subdivision.
Yeah.
That's the problem I had with it. The unit number, I don't have a problem with the unit number. It's the years, and you told me that it transferred. It follows the land.
Well, it follows the division of the land. And of course, there's not really any more deed handoffs without recording of plats of subdivisions anymore. So once that line's drawn and that lot's been subdivided, it's that subdivision piece of it. So that's where, yes, it does kick into that 5-year factor.
So that most people, the average person out here that would be an investor or something that buys a lot
Mhm.
that don't know our subdivision ordinances, and he hears he can do this and he does it one time, but he bought a large tract of land thinking I'm gonna do this on down the road a couple more times. And then he finds out he can't do it. So then he sells it to Mr. Bailey, and Mr. Bailey said, well, I had never done that before. I like that idea. I'm gonna do it.
Mhm.
And you're telling Mr. Bailey, no, Mr. Bailey, you can't do that.
Well, not necessarily, because you still have the right to subdivide your land, right? But it's just gonna have to be a major subdivision. And it's gonna do a little bit more extensive review, and may add some additional requirements associated with it. So, that's just the single difference is it's a matter of staff looking at a plat, or the technical review committee looking at a plat. So like I said, if it's a matter of the year aspect that y'all, aren't really attuned with, like I said, we can take a look at it and see if we can add something to that to make y'all more comfortable, or we can scrap it, or y'all want to scrap it and move it along. Like I said, I'm happy to have discussion here tonight because I don't know how much would change if we held it off and came back. So, but if that's what y'all want to do.
Questions on this one?
I just throw my 2 cents worth in. I see your point about the manipulation of the ordinances, and that's the need to get a handle on it. And Dean makes a good point too. But they're in conflict,
Yeah.
and I don't.
There's definitely a good and a bad side to it for sure. And there's no, I guess,
Yeah, where I'm going to tend to fall is going to be on the side of the citizen, not on the side of the government.
for sure, it's fine.
So,
Me too.
uh,
That's just,
that's just my 2 cents.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, if y'all would like to keep it as it is and y'all feel that people should be allowed to do that, then move it forward.
And I have no problem with the number.
Yeah, the
That's
number,
fine, and that part, the timeframe
sure.
is the issue.
I think the number is fine.
Yes, sir.
That's a good number. And I think that it still allows people to enjoy and do what they want to with their land within reason. It's not an overreach of the government saying you can only have 5 on your land there. That's
Yeah,
not saying overreach. Are you trying to tell me what I can do with my land? As long as I can conform to the city's ordinances.
yeah. I guess it's where does that within reason come into time frame as well? Like where does that stand on behalf, like where could we add something that adds that facet into it inside of our ordinance? And I think this is really the only way, either that or you reduce the 5 years to a shorter amount of time. That way, say it's 2 years or 3 years, it's a little bit less. And, it might give some time for people to get their ducks in a row and develop out this shorter bit of a subdivision and then continue and tacking along. But I mean, there has to be some type of guidance associated with it in my view, because if not, then like you said, I mean, you can continue. People have different iterations of what within reason means.
How many minor subdivisions did we have last year?
That's a good question. I think we had up around, we've recorded around 18 potentially.
Can you give me any?
Sure.
close by? You ain't gotta give me all of them, but give me a couple of them that we might know.
Yeah, like I mentioned, the one on Home and Pine is one that's been the topic of discussion. We've had one on Hanover Road as well.
Talking about the one that's not built yet that they're working on?
Yes, sir. So that one, I think, is the most recent that has come under the question of our minor subdivision ordinance and where a lot of this is stemmed from. I think the developer has reached out to city council and has begged the question of why am I not allowed to add this extra lot on here? It doesn't say anything about parent parcels. Why can't I split this other large piece that I have? And that's where a lot of this is coming from. But yeah, we've had, I can get the GIS pulled up and see if I can point some out.
I thought that project over there on Hanover, it's got more than 5 lots.
Different one. You talking about the townhome one? No, sir. This one a little bit further down. Like I
Further
said,
down.
because the minor subdivisions, of course, they only come through me essentially. And then all they have to do is meet the minor subdivision requirement, you have frontage, and you can essentially meet your lot requirements and not exceed 4 lots as it currently stands. So when you got a 5-acre piece of land and somebody splits it into 4, we're good to go. They just got to get a surveyor to do a plat and we take and record it. And that's essentially what a lot of it is. I mean, there's some others on Hanover, another one on Hanover and Marshall, one of those over there where they've cut, a big 2-acre piece into 3 different ones. I mean, there's multiple that go around the city just off the top of my head.
Could we not put some language in here? It may not be necessary that it has to abut a city street.
A minor subdivision?
Has to.
So the wording, the reason I point about item C is also in the following section 10.337.
Mhm.
When you talk about public street or utility, the word right of way needs to be included in that line of text. So that I know what you mean by public street, but it would ultimately need to read public right of way. And then you could, at the end of the word utility, put the period and remove the yellow of the time constraint altogether.
Huh.
It's an exercise in efficiency to have a surveyor bring a plat to the planning department manager, you in this case. Surveyor takes a day to draw it. The planning department takes a day to review it. It's a very efficient process. There's no need to involve the rest of the technical review folks because there's existing utilities and public right of way,
Yeah.
which creates the permanent access.
And sometimes, with these, scenarios we're throwing out, a lot of the larger piece of acreage is in the back. And the only way you're going to be able to get access to that is via public streets. And I think that's where eventually they're going to have to kick into that major subdivision because you sell this big acreage lot and you cut it, you wouldn't even be able to cut it in half in the middle and leave some in the back, is what I'm trying to say. It'd have to go dead in line. And of course, you're having to meet the width requirement and everything else. So like I said, I think in my, thoughts on this is the only thing that we could be able to change to meet some of y'all's requirements is, maybe change the public street to public right of way and utilities. And if you want to take the no part or the time frame out, we can do that, or if we want to lower it. But like I said, I think that's really the only thing that I would see fit is I don't know about removing it, I guess is my case. And I don't know if y'all were told me to go back and take another look at it if I look at it any differently.
But I don't think I heard a clear understanding of if we put a long driveway in that connects to the right of way to access that land in the back
Mhm.
that you're talking about as an easement
That long driveway is part of the lot.
as part of the lot.
It is part of the lot because by definition, this permanent means of ingress and egress, if we do not have the ability to use a private easement right of way or private street,
Right.
then that lot has to have frontage on a public right of way and
Yeah.
access to public utilities.
This right here, I'll highlight it, is inside of our subdivision ordinance as well under the lot standards. It's every lot shall have frontage on a public street with the exception of townhome lots, which shall have legal access to a public street. So yeah, if you wanted to do it in that facet, you could essentially have a private drive that serve townhomes. But
Townhomes only.
townhomes, you have to get a special use permit
Permit,
or a
right.
conditional rezoning for it. There's not really anything that approves the use by right. So essentially, yes, sir, that's, everything would have to have frontage on that public street. So, I mean, even if you were to go through the, exempt aspect of it, that it would be the only case where it would possibly be feasible to break that off. But then if you wanted to subdivide that extra 10 acres, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Get you back.
Unless you did a shaped lot, and then even in that facet, you wouldn't be able to break it off anymore, so.
And those provisions already exist in the ordinance
Right.
today. So you're really trying to clarify for the citizen and for the regulator, what is the definition of a minor subdivision and how many lots does that mean for me or for Cameron? And that number is clearly defined now in the first half of item 1. It's 5 lots.
Mhm.
Well, that's really all I think it needs to be to
Sure.
define the minor subdivision.
If, like I said, if that's the will of y'all and y'all don't want to have the time requirement inside of it, we can move it along. Like I said, I think I've shown my piece as to why I believe it should be in there. If y'all feel differently, that is that's definitely your obligation to do so as the planning board. That's why we bring stuff in front of y'all for this discussion, so.
Any further? Mr. Young?
No.
Right. Further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. We'll see if it stands. I'll make a motion to approve with the, to approve the yellow, and 5-lot residential definition with the removal of the second half of the, item 1. I'll read it into the record. Subdivision minor, a subdivision that divides a tract or parcel of land into no more than 5 residential lots, including the parent parcel, and does not include the construction or extension of any public right-of-way or utility, full stop.
I have a proper motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Did you get all that language there?
Yes, sir.
Street to right away.
Right away.
Include utility in.
Yes, sir.
All right, any staff got any comments they want to talk about?
Not really, no, sir. I think there's been the talk of, the future land use plan, amongst us in past meetings. We are getting very, very close to a final draft of it. So that will probably be hitting at least the steering committee people first. And then it'll come in front of y'all for a reading. We'll look over it. We'll have a lengthy discussion about whatever else that could possibly come into it. Then it'll go in front of city council for another reading. There might be 2 readings here and 2 readings at city council. I can't quite remember, but there might be some meetings where we'll be talking about that at a lengthy amount. So, and you'll get it ahead of time so you can go ahead and read through it and make any notes in particular that you would like to kind of adjust or see to it. But I believe it'll come in front of you all. I think it should.
Does any member here have any agenda items they'd like to speak about?
Do you know when the next steering committee meeting might be?
I don't think we're doing any more steering committee meetings. I think the steering committee meetings had halted at the last one whenever Dawn was still working. She has since left, and Jesse Day, the head of PTRC is, or PTCR, I can't remember which one it is, has been essentially taking her work and her latest draft and sprucing it up in regards to the fonting, pictures, essentially everything else. So, but like I said, we'll have a lot of time to take a look at it.
Is it proper to have one more steering committee meeting since the kind of the quarterback?
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I think that last steering committee meeting, y'all will be the first to see the final draft. So I don't know when that'll be held, but of course, participation would be requested at those meetings. I think that's where we kind of ran into a little bit of a hurdle, is the participation was down at some of the, and we didn't really know what was going on. So,
Yeah, I agree. I didn't know what was going on either.
yeah,
And so we're just gonna get hit with a plan that we can't make any changes to?
no, there's definitely ample, that's why it's a draft. So, we'll take everything into consideration. Of course, we'll take everything. It's kind of like you recommending this text amendment to city council, is that they'll take a look at it as well. And essentially we'll come to an adoption point. It might have to come back and they might have to go back up. It's going to be a process until, we see a light at the end of the tunnel, we can approve it, adopt it.
Hey, all right. Guess we don't want to be here any longer. I'll make a motion we adjourn.
All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you, Cameron.